Whew. Okay. Looks good, sounds good. Let me just quickly go to the WhatsApp play. Good morning, everyone, says Mr. Tarun. Good morning, Mr. Tarun. I'm saying on behalf of everyone. How are you doing? What is going on? Why am I not live yet? Finally. Yes, so we are live on LinkedIn, on YouTube. There goes the message on WhatsApp. And yes, there it is. 100th episode. Sent. Ready. We're ready. We're good to go, folks. If you can hear me, let me know. And we will begin the show that we deserve. The show that we deserve. It's so good we can't take a break. No. No breaks for us, you know. So, everything's cool, guys. Let me know if you can hear me. And we will start. Congratulations for 100. Thank you. And same to you, Mr. Tarun. Can you hear me? Should we begin? It's already 8:10, man. Yeah. Sorry, did I say the F word? No, I didn't mean to. No, I didn't. Deny everything. All right. Let's begin. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Thinker's Frequency. We are having such a good time. This is the peak of human civilization. We are working so hard, doing such good work for ourselves, our parents, our kids, our siblings, our husbands, our wives, our friends, everybody. Well, not other people's husbands and wives, I hope. And just when we thought things couldn't get any better, like they couldn't possibly get any better, they just did. Call it divine intervention, folks, but things just got a whole lot better. Now we have Thinker's Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis, which don't lead to paralysis, right before we punch in. So let's continue with our journey of reading between the lines, things that are especially interesting and important in the world of business and finance. Let's go! Oh, but before we go, you gotta follow a tradition, right? You know the tradition, the sweet and sacred tradition of the simultaneous sip. We'll all sip something together and it'll bring us good luck, as it always does, without fail, every day. And here we go. Oh, I forgot to mention. All you need for the simultaneous sip is a cup or mug, a glass, a tank, a chalice, a stein, A canteen jug, a flask, or a vessel of any kind. Pour it with your favorite liquid. I'm having water with some black pepper and hot water. Now we can go. Ah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So sweet. Let's do it again. Sublime. Wait, you know what the simultaneous sip says, right? You know what it says? It says that you're not alone. It says that we're in this together. And that's such a beautiful thing to say. With that out of the way, let's begin. Some comments. Mr. Mittal, my brother, says, a century to raise the toast. Yes, I had hot water. You can have wine. Mr. Perspective says, congratulations on the century. We all deserve a free lifetime subscription. What? 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 Mr. Ankit Jindal says 100. Yeah, that's cool. 100 is nice. Speaking of 100 and good news, since we are talking good things, did you look at the stocks yesterday? Did you look at Ether yesterday? Right? It rose 12%, man. Peaked at 12%. So if you would have basically invested on Ether stock when we first talked, which is about like 4 weeks ago, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago, you would have, grown your money by 15%. 50. 50. $100, there would have been $150, right? Then you already know what happened to defense. You already know what happened to banking and IT, which we asked to avoid earlier. Then the consumption stocks, which we asked to avoid earlier, now they're hot. So we're just very, very good. We're doing very good. All our predictions, they're solid, and this is very nice. So let's begin. Miss Akshaya says, awesome, congratulations. Thank you, Miss Akshaya. So sweet of you on LinkedIn. And Mr. Rohit D'Souza says, are you open to collab? Well, if that collab means I get money, sure. All right. So India steady amid levy. GST kitty up 6.5% in August. So congratulations, says Mr. Tiwari. Thank you. So 6% GST kitty up by 6% in August. August reports are out. Obviously, it's 2nd September. As we expect, we basically got a lot of information on what happened last month. So a few things happened last month. Car sales declined last month. The decline in car sales continued for many months. Now, 337 lakh cars got shipped on the wholesaler level, which is about 6 to 7% of decline. Now, who's surprised with the car sales decline in August? Are you surprised? Well, if you're a regular viewer of Thinkers Frequency, you wouldn't be surprised, right? You wouldn't be surprised because we talked about this. Now, do you know why this has happened in August? Why did the car sales decline in August, right? We look into the future, right? Why did the car sales decline in August? Can you guess? Can you make a quick guess on the car sales decline? GST, says Mr. Tarun. You're right. The deferred purchase, Mr. Tiwari, GST. You're right. So everybody is expecting that the car market will get a big boost as the GST rationalization happens, right? Small cars are meeting with the GST Council to shift from 28 to 18%. The big cars will be at a special levy of 40% instead of 40 to 53%, including cess, which happens right now. So a lot of Osborne effect, says Mr. Mittal. Yeah, a form of it. So car sales declined. Fuel sales, from Maruti's standpoint, fuel sales also declined, So we imported less fuel. And that basically had a good effect on our GDP. So why our GDP grew in the last quarter 7.8% was because of decline in imports of fuel, right? So the fuel imports have declined a bit. The employment numbers are not that great. right? But at the same time, Manrega numbers are low. So EPFO is Employee Provident Fund Organization. They track the formal employment which is generated in the country, right? While that isn't collinear or that isn't coinciding with the GDP growth data, what they're seeing is that Manrega, like Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, that is going low. So what happens when that particular scheme goes low? It means that the rural employment market is very robust. Because that Manrega scheme is like the bare minimum. Okay, people who enroll for that Manrega scheme enroll because there is not a greener opportunity available in the rural job market. Now, those numbers decrease when the rural economy goes better, right? So, while EPFO numbers say that the formal job economy is not collinear, the Manrega numbers say that they are collinear. So, there's a lot of data, which you've got to read between the lines. So, somebody says that, hey, EPFO numbers are not growing as much, which means that there's a problem, right? But then you say that, oh, Mudra loan numbers are going up, and maybe the Mudra loan numbers is basically the small business loans which the government issues, right? Now the government is issuing small business loans. That also is employment, right? Now it's not EPFO employment, but it is employment, right? And those Mudra loans, which will lead to some jobs, they might not get covered under the EPFO scheme. Now, that doesn't mean that the employment isn't there, right? A lot of startups which get registered when they're in the early stages, they don't have an EPFO play, right? Now, that particular play, it's not going to show in the data. But you've got to look. So, when you're looking at job data, what I've realized is that the EPFO number, while a good indicator from a large industry perspective, because large organizations are compliant that way, it's a good indicator. However, if you're looking at the whole job ecosystem for the country, you've got to look at three things. Number one, the startups, like the modern new age startups, the Startup India scheme. Number two, the Mudra loan scheme. How many takers have been for the Mudra loan scheme? Number three is the Manrega scheme, right? How many people is that scheme employing? And number four, the EPFO play. So you've got to look at all the places where, uh, you know, industry basically employs people. Now, if you look at the manufacturing index, the purchasing manufacturing index, the PMI, it's at 59.3. So it was 59.7, it's 59.3, which means that manufacturing is really doing well, right? Now, we know how to read PMI. PMI above 50 means it's expanding. PMI below 50 means it's contracting. 59%, 59.5 of a PMI means that factories have been bustling a little more than you imagine. That's very good news. Now, if factories are bustling, does that mean that there's good news as far as the employment play is considered? Of course there is, right? So a lot of things have to be judged in a holistic way, let's say, which is what we talked about. UPI transactions, by the way, crossed 20 billion for the first time. Now, this is growth. A lot of UPI transactions. Mr. Tiwari asked, does delivery guy get an EPFO or not? Seasonal hiring there. No, delivery guys are not employees. Okay, delivery guys are gig workers. They are partners, so to speak. So they don't register under EPFO, Mr. Tiwari. So that is different employment. So temp hiring is very different. Like the corporate temp hiring. Manrega is also temp hiring, right? A lot of temp hiring. That's a different play. So UPI transactions are at 20 billion. For the first time, 20 billion, and the transaction volume is also pretty solid, though not at the peak. Domestic GST comes, domestic GST collection up 9.6%, signaling strong demand. 9.6%, which is pretty solid, right? Now imports are less, so the GST collection from the imports play is less, because that shows that the imports are not growing, but the demand, domestic demand, is pretty solid. Moving on, the manufacturing PMI, which I just told you, it's at a 17.5 year high, highest in 17 and a half years. So that's huge. Transaction value a little low. That's what we talked about. There's a lot of reports there, which makes it heavy, which is why I got late, because I was so reading and I got lost. I lost the track of time while I was reading. So that's we're gonna share more reports. Moving on, Blackstone eyes clean energy foray with O2 Park co-founder. So Mr. Parag Sharma and PE firm Blackstone, which is the world's largest PE firm, they're beginning an clean energy platform, basically a 500 million seed capital into the venture. Half a billion, that's 4 and a half thousand crores roughly, seed founder, seed investments. So that's pretty huge. Blackstone's AUM, assets under management for infrastructure, is $64 billion. So 500 million is not a lot of money for Blackstone, but you can imagine the scale, right? The seed investment. Total value of the platform is 200 billion, 1.198 billion. So that's what's happening. As far as the green energy play is considered, a lot of action as far as the green energy play, of course. We've been discussing it, right? Speaking of deals, that Tesla deal, the Hero Electronics, the Munjal family in semiconductor, in the chip manufacturing play, right? Semiconductor play, not exactly manufacturing, they're more of a design firm, but they've taken $150 million from TPG. So we discussed that earlier. They were looking at basically selling a majority stake to a PE company, but then came TPG, which said that it'll buy like a $150 million stake, which is like a minority stake, right? Significant minority stake, at a $500 million valuation. So we were as viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember, we talked about how it was very strange that Munjan family was actually looking at exiting the semiconductor play at this stage of the country, right? Why would they do that? So they didn't do that. Are they listening to Thinkers Frequency? I don't think so. But we were right to question that. Moving on. Change of cart. Tata plans CEO rejig at Big Basket. So Hari Menon sir was the founder of Big Basket. 2011 is when Big Basket began, right? Now, Tata acquired Big Basket in 2021, Tata Digital, and then it just screwed it up, right? It basically just screwed Big Basket, it screwed 1MG, it screwed Cult, it screwed all the new age companies that it had acquired by ruining them, by bringing them under the umbrella of Tata New, right? Now, while that plan is off, Mr. Hari Menon is basically looking at a succession plan. He's going to be the mentor. Is that a signal of something? Of course it is. Of course it is. Now, maybe he spent a lot of time in the company, 2011 to 2025, that's 14 years at one company. Maybe he's just looking at moving on. But it is definitely a signal, because Big Basket had a lot of promise. It was the pioneer in, the hyper local delivery, grocery delivery play. It made a lot of right calls in the beginning when people thought that, would you be a marketplace or would you be an inventory led player? Big Basket decided on being an inventory led player, which was the right call, because being a marketplace in a hyper local quick commerce kind of a way, it was impossible. It was operationally impossible, quality control, everything was impossible. So Big Basket made a right call there. They said that, we're going to be inventory led, which is what led to Big Basket's rise, right? Back then, only Big Basket and Grofers used to be there. Grofers were just lost money like anything. It was a loss-making machine on steroids. Big Basket did very well, but then came quick commerce, which everything changed, right? With Zepto, Then Eternal basically bought Grofers and changed it to Blinkit. Instamart got started up by Swiggy, and now Big Basket has been left in the background, right? It does not um, get a mention in the top three players at least, right? Even in the top four players, who would be the top four players of this play, right? Ideally, it should have been Big Basket, but right now, when you talk about it, you talk about Blinkit, it's Instamart, Zepto, then you talk about Amazon, Flipkart, and then you are looking at Big Basket. So Big Basket really lost the bus to no fault of its own. To no fault of its own. Basically, Tata acquired the company and just shit on it, unfortunately. So Hari Menon sir is moving on. Infinite respect. Moving on. Personal loan biz on the rise for insurers. So something interesting is happening as far as insurance plays considered. Insurers have a loan book of some 1.5 lakh crore, which is a pretty solid play. So that's secured lending. So what you do is basically your policy, against your policy you can get a loan, right? Now loans again against FDs, that's a secured loan product from the banks. So secured loan product from the banks is loans against FD. Secured loan product of insurance is loans against your policy, right? Now that's growing, and that's giving a competition to the banking play, right? Because these people, as I said, they have a lot of money. Insurance companies run on a lot of float. We've discussed the concept of float. Concept of float is what I learned from Mr. Warren Buffett's biography, and also a book called Outsiders, which is basically Mr. Buffett's pick on stocks and how stocks essentially can lead to better return on capital, right? So Mr. Buffett said why he likes the insurance business a lot is that there's a lot of float. Float is the money that the company keeps but doesn't own, right? It's the money that you get in insurance premiums, but someday you're going to pay it back. But till the time you have it, it's your float, right? You can invest that money, get some capital, return on capital, and by then, by the time you actually have to return it, you've made a lot of multiples from the market. So that's the float principle. Now, on that float principle, insurers are also giving loans to consumers, which the loan book is rising. So that's some competition for short-term loans with rates ranging from 8.5 to 10.5 for meeting urgent needs. Insurance have emerged as bank rivals in providing retail policyholders secured personal loans. So we discussed that. It's pretty interesting. A lot of interesting things to talk about, by the way. In premium FMCG, rural is ruler. Good wordplay. Aspirational Bharat pips cities in buying affordable premium packs like Super Premium 2. Well, rural economy has been looking a bit green because of good monsoon, because of, basically monsoon has been an enabler, and due to which the rural economy is looking at some sort of strength as far as buying capacity is considered. When you look at domestic demand, you've been talking about the country facing some sort of demand problems, right? So what the government has done in that direction, we've talked about it enough. It's the personal tax, income tax rationalization, no tax below 12 lakh. Now the GST rationalization, the lending rate, the RBI reducing the lending rate and so on, which has led to the rural economy to have some strength, right? Which is very necessary. And that's that's what these people are talking about. They're talking about rural 7% in affordable premium, the growth, average spend in 5 years, 7% in affordable premium, 11% in super premium, and so on and so forth. So premium FMCG is valued at 1 lakh crore right now, and rural is taking. So what they're saying is that you've got to have a very robust rural consumption play, because there's only so much that the cities can do, right? And that makes sense because the population essentially is urban. Per capita consumption of premium products may still be higher, but the sheer size of the rural market that accounts for 2/3 of the population will mean gradual increase in share across price points. So until now, rural economy was basically in the affordable range. Now there's some flux as far as premium play is considered. Mr. Rohit D'Souza asks, "What are your thoughts about the AI bubble?" Well, we'll discuss about that, Mr. Rohit. Definitely discuss about that. So moving on, Adani Group has yet again given an upward revision in its target for thermal power. It's at 41 gigawatts now by 2032. So it said 30 gigawatts by 2030, but it says 41 gigawatts by 2032. It says that we've already bought a lot of turbine equipment, and we're going to be very well equipped to handle competition because we'll have these technologies ready, and we'll be basically looking at really spearheading and growing the thermal power play. Adani's group is, by the way, India's largest private thermal power player, right? Which is very interesting. Very interesting. Moving on. A lot of political chit chat which we not talk about. My God, Indian political discourse is so dumb, man. So dumb. I got to avoid it to preserve your brain. Otherwise, your brain will get fried. Oh God. Mr. Tarun, Angola is the one I know that is making money from AI as it owns the domain. Okay. No. 90% of AI money goes to one company. You know who, right? We'll talk about that. You know who? I just make sure I don't miss anything. Yeah, so we've talked about manufacturing activity expanding to a 17-year high, right? The PMI at 50 in July this year. S&P was 59.1 in July and 57.5 in August, right? So at this moment, India's activity surged to 59.3, which is just extraordinary, which is pretty good. Although you shouldn't be looking at, these things month on month, because it helps to have some sort of a macro perspective, let's say a quarterly perspective or a half a yearly perspective, and so on and so forth. That helps. But if manufacturing is bustling at this pace, this means that a lot of things are going to happen in future. So if manufacturing activity is basically rising in a month, right, the effects of it are going to be seen in the next couple of months or the next 3 months. That's when you're going to see the actual demand playing out. So it's a very early indicator of what might be happening to the consumption play, because these people are very, very careful as far as manufacturing activity is considered, right? That's their business, right? So they're really careful as far as managing the demand is considered. So if you're looking at the activity rising in a particular month, let's say, or in a particular set of months, what you're gonna be seeing is the next 2 or 3 months seeing that action as far as the consumer play is considered, right? Which is, by the way, collinear to our expectation of the demand, consumption demand in October, November, December, right? We've talked about this. We've said that those particular things will be pretty green in those months, right? The consumption, and that's exactly what the manufacturing activity is also saying. So let me see if I'm missing any number. Okay. Yeah. Manufacturers ramped up orders for raw materials and semi-finished goods to meet higher output requirements and rebuild stocks, with input buying growth reaching 16-month high. Hiring also picked up, with employment rising to an 18-month high, as I was talking about. While Manrega is down 25%, formal job creation down 2 fiscals after a record at FY23. So there's another perspective to the EPFO play. EPFO play had a peak at FY22 and FY23, right? So there's also a high base as far as that play is considered. Now, high base effect actually leads to lower growth rates, right? Obviously, because if something had quite a boost in a couple of years because of the COVID, everything fell down on COVID, and then it grew, and then it had a very, very big peak at FY23. The pace at which things can grow at a high after a high base is low. So pace of employment generation not in countries GDP, say exports. Now we've already discussed the EPFO is one play, manufacturing hiring is other, Manrega is other, Mudra loan is other. So there's a lot of you know uh, plays considered. However, to manage the whole EPFO scene, you remember what the government has done. You remember what the government came out with as far as the scheme is considered. So they came out with a scheme, right? You remember the scheme, which targeted at boosting the formal employment numbers. I'm sure you remember, right? Uh, just give me a cheer on that. We've talked a lot about this. A hint, it rhymes with PLI. We've talked a lot about this. Come on. Well, it is ELI, the Employee Linked Incentive Scheme. You remember that? That's basically, what the government was trying to do as far as boosting employment numbers is considered, right? So that's going on. Moving on. Textile PLI scheme applications to stay open till September 30. Government is saying that we want to give the textile PLI guys another chance. The scheme was supposed to be over, right? Already August, but they are basically looking at new applicants because the textile industry needs a lot of support, right? Especially because of the whole tariff situation. So the industry needs support, and that's what the government is trying to do. It's basically extending the PLI scheme. Now, there's something very, very interesting that has happened, right? Unintended side effect. Focus on E20 fuels wheat price rise. Okay? Wheat price rise. Now, you know that for ethanol production, as Mr. Nitin Gadkari had said, that ethanol production is very good for India because it reduces the imports. Now, imports, when they get reduced, they save a lot of Indian money. They save a lot of national exchequer money, right? And when that happens, the forex doesn't drain. Also, when the import is getting cut off, the E2 also gives an agricultural boost, right? Boost to the agriculture sector. You remember that? We talked about how E20 ethanol blending is going to give an agricultural boost to the economy. Now, Mr. Gadkari said that agriculture right now contributes to 12% of GDP. He was wrong. It actually contributes to 19%, again, according to the national data. We did a fact check on his interview. But 19%, from 19%, it's going to rise to 22%, he said, just because of ethanol. You remember that? You do, right? We talked about this. Now, that particular play is playing out. It's playing out. So, unintended side effects. Focus on E20 fuels wheat price rise, but it's not as simple as you thought, as you think, right? Now, my byproducts of maize, every liter of sugar-based ethanol, 2.5 to 2.9 kiloliters of water is used. 2.5 k liters of water. You mean kiloliters? 1,000 liters for one liter of ethanol? Is that what you're saying, Mr. Tarun? That's an interesting fact. 1,000. Wow, that's a lot of water for ethanol. I did not know that. But are you counting the water essentially which goes into production of the farm ingredient? Is it like something like an every jeans this particular cloth that we wear takes 7,000 liters? Is Are you talking about that? The farm water intake and the farm water outtake and then the final processing? Or is it over and above for growing the crops? Yeah. So crops growing obviously takes a lot of water. But let's come back to this particular play, which is very interesting. Byproducts of maize-based ethanol outcompete wheat bran as animal feed atta maida priced hike to negate lower returns on bran. Okay, so now basically maize, which is corn product, I guess, maize based ethanol. Maize basically is used to make ethanol, right? Now that goes into the ethanol play, okay, which basically uh, outcompetes wheat bran. Bran is wheat's skin, okay, which takes out. Now animal feed takes wheat bran, okay. Now since corn goes to ethanol, maize goes to ethanol, the animal feed is using bran a lot, right? And it, the demand for that particular product rises, and it becomes, there's a gap in the market, due to which due to which the brand price basically goes down. Okay, now wheat brand price goes down. If wheat brand price goes down, the person who was basically making wheat, how was he making money? He was selling wheat and he was selling bran, right? Now because of ethanol, bran becomes cheaper. Okay, now bran becomes cheaper. What happens then? You got to raise the price of wheat, right? You understand what's happening? So ethanol came in the play. Okay, now animal feed got outcompeted. Brand got outcompeted. Because of that, brand's price went down. Now somebody's got to offset that price decline, so wheat price went up. You imagine how interesting things happen as far as that play is concerned. Prices of wheat and wheat products have increased about 10% over previous year due to increasing diversion of maize for ethanol, which was earlier sold as animal feed. Okay, the byproducts of maize-based ethanol used in animal feed is competing and suppressing prices of byproducts of wheat, forcing wheat processors to increase prices of atta, maida, suji to make up for lower returns on wheat product called wheat bran. So that's what's happening. Very interesting play. Unfortunately, in one of the articles, very intelligent articles, what they had mentioned was that this particular play, agriculture economy in India, is very sad because there's an upper limit to how much you can price your product, right? Because the food inflation rises up and then the government wants to stop it. So they basically put a ceiling on the price of these things, which is bad news for farmers. But this is great, right? This is great. If ethanol blending is leading to so much of, market shifts as far as the whole agriculture play is considered, this is pretty nice. Speaking of, nice things, power demand heats up in August despite monsoon chills. Now, this is pretty interesting. August saw a 4.3% year-on-year increase in power demand to about 150.5 billion units despite torrential rains lowering cooling requirement in the country. Now, this is very surprising. This is very surprising. We talked about how monsoons happen, and because monsoons came early, temperatures lowered a little. ACs didn't sell. ACs and fans didn't sell as much, right? That's what happened with the whole monsoon play. Now, if that happened, that ACs didn't sell and cooling products didn't sell, the fridges didn't sell, how did power demand rise up? Right? Like this is fascinating, right? So, uh, you know, it still rose. A government official attributed the increase to a lower base. There was a subdued demand in August 2024, which basically led, to this particular rise in year-on-year rise as far as this is considered. So they said that there was some reason due to which August 2024 had an abnormally low power demand. In July, power consumption was 153.6 billion units, which rose to 150, which was 150 billion units in August. Peak power demand in August increased to 229 gigawatts as compared to 207 gigawatts last year. Now, my question is, what exactly happened in August 2024? Why was the power demand so low in August 2024? That's an interesting case study. Coal stocks depleted and so on and so forth. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Most of the increase in power demand during the month came from the western region, which saw 10.7% rise in average daily demand. The eastern demand grew just 7%. So that's that. Pretty interesting play. Western demand. That's basically Gujarat, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, a bit of Karnataka, right? So that led Kerala, that particular belt led the power demand increase, which is okay, which is interesting. I'll read about what happened in August 2024, which led to such a bad, a good month for power consumption. Lower power consumption is great news. India UAE discuss renewable energy, digital infra trade, and data monitoring. So obviously we talked about renewable energy getting a lot of money, and UAE, India and UAE have a good trading relationship and investment relationship. So SEPA review has led to new discussions on renewable energy, digital infra, and trade data monitoring. Furthering trade in pharma and healthcare products, with India expressing openness for inspections and audits by UAE officials. They are also talking about a special court on handling bank fraud cases, but that's a preliminary discussion, and that just happens, right? They just keep talking about that there should be a fast track court, man. Yeah, there should be. There are 857 fast track courts, by the way, for dealing with cases of heinous crimes involving senior citizens, women, and children. But still, judiciary is a bit of a problem. Lenders have been seeking such a structure that would help in quick disposal of cases besides aiding in more financial recovery. Makes sense? RMG downloads crash amidst as online gaming ban bites. Now, this is no news, but these people have created a big headline out of it. They see that RMG downloads, real money gaming apps are falling as far as downloads are considered. Now, why would that be a news item? Isn't this obvious? Like, isn't this so obvious? Like, if the thing is banned, the apps won't be downloaded. But somehow it's worthy of a news. Speaking of real money gaming, Mr. Ashwini Vaishnav has met online gaming companies, and he's saying, just guess the conversation which Ashwini Vaishnav sir must be having with these people, right? It's straight out of the Bakar Banerjee movie like LSD, right? Have you watched LSD? बेटा बंद कर दो ये बुरे काम अब ठीक है अच्छे काम शुरू करो तुम ये सब जो है ये हराम का पैसा काम नहीं आता राइट यू गॉट टू अच्छे काम करो गेम बनाओ कुछ बढ़िया से गेम बनाओ रूवियो को देखो नियांटिक को देखो बढ़िया गेमिंग करो ये सब मत करो और जो पैसा तुमने लिया हुआ है ना लोगों का वो रिफंड कर देना and so on and so forth. What must he be saying, right? And it's just fascinating that these companies have to sit with this guy and listen to him and he basically killed their business, right? ये गलत काम नहीं करते बुरा मत मानो ये सब तो होना ही था एक ना एक दिन हराम का पैसा कभी काम नहीं आता and so on and so forth. Speaking of real money gaming, Mr. Jain, the founder of this betting company Dream 11, he said that I have 500 engineers who can build a gaming company. I guess he's trying to raise money again. Krutrim cuts 50 roles in linguistics. That's okay. That's okay. Moving on. India's fuel demand has slowed down in August, and also commercial LPG cheaper and ATF price is also down. Air turbine fuel, ATF is air turbine fuel price is down. Commercial LPG is also cheaper by $50. ATF price down is very good news for airline companies, airline stocks, right? So aviation turbine fuels price were cut by 1.4% on Monday. Jet fuel was reduced by 1,300 rupees per kiloliter to 90,000 rupees per kiloliter. That's how much ATF costs. Reduction comes after 2 consecutive monthly hikes since July, right? So in all, prices had risen by 8,900 rupees. Now they're down by 1300 rupees as far as ATF fuel is concerned. By the way, India's fuel demand has slowed down, which is leading to the higher GDP count, right? Because the imports are falling. So even though petrol and diesel have risen, petrol has risen 5%, diesel has by 0.9%. Fuel demand is less, decline was led by weakness in naphtha, fuel oil, lubricants, and pet coke. So these are petrochemical products that are imported along as a part of the crude play, right? They came down even though petrol was okay. Fuel demand in August, as growth in petroleum, diesel, cooking gas slowed while jet fuel consumption declined, according to provisional data. Petrol sales grew 5% compared to 6.8% in July. Diesel, which accounts for 40% of India's refined fuel use, inched up just 0.9% against 2.5% in April to July. So the growth rate slowed, but the demand essentially slowed down because of naphtha, fuel oil, lubricants, and pet coke. So that's going on. Cooking gas consumption rose only 4%. Slowdown across these fuels could weigh on India's overall oil demand and imports. Refined products consumption already dropped 4.2 in July. So this is obviously good news for GDP, but the GDP number. But overall, if the fuel demand is declining, it cannot be a good news for the GDP, right? So that's it's a pretty interesting conundrum. By the way, Aramco, an Iraq company, have halted oil sales to Nayara. Nayara is the Reliance and Rosneft collaboration. We've talked about Nayara a lot. Nayara had to make dark fleet shipments to sell its products because of all the sanctions that Europe and America have laid on Russia. So Rosneft got screwed. Aramco has halted oil sales. That means Nayara will only be taking Russian crude oil and going to refine it, right? So that's a bit of a problem. Everybody wonders when it's all going to end, right? Adani Power, we've talked about it. Yeah. Place advance orders on BTG. BTG is boilers, turbines, and generators. Over the next 6 years, the existing fleet generated an aggregate FFO. FFO is basically fund flow of 1.23 lakh crores. So there's going to be a lot of capex, 1.12 lakh crores, and they say that our fund flow, our cash flow is going to make up for it. So that's what's happening. Silver, by the way, has surged to $6,000 at an all-time high of 1,23,000 rupees. So silver is rising, gold is rising. This is a proxy for geopolitical instability, economic instability across the globe, right? We discussed about how all the reserve banks of the world were basically stocking on gold. Now there's something called global currency for storing value, and then there's global currency of making transactions, right? Now, storing value, it seems that gold has effectively become the world's de facto store of value, right? So, and this is just the first step. The next step is when the transaction basically changes from the whole dollar play, right? Which is what a lot of people have been gunning for. We're going to discuss the geopolitical implications a bit later. Gold gains 2,700 per gram. Silver surges $6,000. Demand for the safe havens of gold and silver has increased as a result of Donald Trump's attempt to remove Lisa Cook from Federal Reserve as the governing. She's one of the Fed Reserve's board members, Lisa Cook. And Trump said that she needs to be fired because she indulged in some kind of a mortgage fraud. Just to give you an information, that particular bit is that she had two homes marked as primary residences. So there cannot be two primary residences. She had two homes marked as primary residences, which led to lower mortgage payments, which basically was mortgage fraud. So he said, you're gonna be fired. She said, you can't fire me. I'm gonna come. And she said, and then there's gonna be a whole case, right? In the mid of all this, Jeremy Powell, the Fed chair, is talking about how he might just be looking at a rate cut. So a lot of things are happening in the middle of all that. The gold and silver prices are going low. Oh, sorry, going high. uh, Moving on. Indices back in the green on improved GDP show. We've talked about it. You know, uh, Indices overall. Motilal Oswal had said, the group Motilal Oswal, that September is usually a dull month for stocks. That's what we discussed yesterday. That since the last 10 years, indexes have always fallen in September on a net level, but September began well, with the indices going up. However, the new expiry days have shifted. Earlier they were Thursday, uh, you know, uh, so the National Stock Exchange weekly and monthly derivatives contracts will now expire on Tuesdays, replacing long followed Thursdays. So Tuesdays are gonna be when these derivatives are gonna expire, which means that Tuesdays will be the days when the markets will sort of drop a little, right? That's what it means, and this change will shift the rhythm of the weekly derivatives market. With NSE's weekly expiry moving to Tuesday, we'll see more activity and sharper move earlier in the week, especially on Mondays and Tuesdays. Essentially, what used to be Thursday rush will now be Tuesday rush. But anyway, the market really went up yesterday, and a lot of good stocks went up. Emerging market stock rally. Alibaba surges on AI revenue boost. So Alibaba came in with its earnings, and it showed a revenue boost as far as the AI play is considered, and its stock jumped like $50 billion. $50 billion is when its stock jumped, which was huge. Indian market is enormous, is taking impact in stride, says Marcus Mobius, emerging markets investor. He says that Indian market is pretty safe and will somehow take the tariff in its stride. We're going to discuss the geopolitics. I'm keeping it for the last, so that we get the money problems sorted early, and then we talk about the whole geopolitical aspect of it, right? Moving on. Stock market's fate comes down to next 14 trading sessions. US job inflation numbers in focus. And US jobs and inflation numbers will lead to something, and it will lead to everything. Now, what is that something? Can you guess? So, US jobs and inflation numbers will lead to one decision, and that lead to every decision. So can you guess what is that decision? It's a very simple question, but just so you know, can you guess that? Rate cut, the federal rate cut, says Mr. Tiwari, you're right. That is going to decide a lot of things. Moving on, we've already discussed how insurers are grabbing a chunk of secured personal loans biz. Moving on. For India to grow at 8%, companies must up investments, asserts RBI ex-deputy governor. RBI's ex-deputy governor, I'm missing his name, Michael Patra. Yeah, Michael Patra. That's an interesting name. So Michael Patra says that for India to grow at 8%, companies must up investments. Right now they are in wait and watch mode. Now, what were the two problems that we discussed with Indian economy? Right? What were the two problems we discussed with Indian economy? Number one was obviously, domestic consumption, right? That was the number one problem. The number two problem is private investment, private capex. And we've mentioned this for like 99 days now, 100 days. That's what RBI's ex-deputy governor also said in his speech last night. So he said, on exports, you know the situation. India can't do much. On investment, we need an opportunity to step up. And that will happen when the purchasing power comes back to people. So at the current rate, what can be done? You can boost consumption. That is the effort of the government and the RBI. Now, we talked about this, and he just summed it very well, because if consumption begins, right, if you look at private consumptions and the next 3 months, if it turns out to be very green, you know, the next month you will notice a lot of announcements starting to happen as far as private capex plays considered, right? And then those announcements will take some time to actually come to fruition, but that's what the government is hoping for, that do whatever you can, right, spur the demand so much that corporates do not think it's a good idea to wait and watch. So what's a good idea, right, for the corporates right now? Whatever money you're making, sit on it, watch it grow in some safe instruments. Do not make investments in something new, right? Whatever is selling, keep the machine rolling, keep it oiled, just make the money and store it, right? Because that is easy, right? Now if something starts happening as far as consumption plays is concerned, right, something really really stark, what then becomes the natural thing to do? Oh, it doesn't make sense to sit on the money anymore. You got to start putting it, right, putting it back. Now that's when the private capex happens. So that's exactly what the government is trying to do, and which is what we're talking about. Tax mop up, CSG, this and that. Mm-hmm. Okay. Gross domestic GST revenue grew by 9.6% year on year, while that levy on imports fell 1.2%, as discussed. We discussed about it. Moving on. Ashok Leland, speaking of private capex, Ashok Leland is investing 5,000 crores in battery technology. The company has struck a long-term exclusive partnership with CALB Group. So battery technology is obviously a very, very big frontier for whatever. So, you know, it's basically like a critical thing right now, right? So something that is happening as far as battery technology, a lot is happening as far as battery technology, especially in China and in US, not much in India. But India is supposed to starting to warm up. Mr. R.C. Bhargav recently said that you need to have some sort of alternate battery chemistry, right? And I told you that one of my friends was working, not friend but acquaintance, was working on zinc gel batteries, right? Which are supposed to be much better than lithium ion batteries if they work at scale. So a lot of things happening as far as battery play is considered. In the next 7 to 10 years, 5,000 crores in a significant bet on the battery ecosystem, electric mobility and energy storage solutions in line with India's green energy push. Something interesting happening. Retailers are struggling as high fashion biz hits roadblock. Clothing stores face short of supply after India limits imports from Bangladesh. So India has obviously limited Bangladesh exports to India, and Bangladesh basically exports clothes. And India's high fashion companies still import a lot of products from Bangladesh. Now this is necessary. The block on Bangladesh produce is necessary because Indian textile guys are gonna get screwed anyway, right? Because of the whole tariff situation. So India needs to have some of that business directed to India, and India imports some $250 million worth of stuff from Bangladesh. No, actually $500 million. So from January, India imported apparels worth $250 million from Bangladesh during January to June in 2025. So basically just 6 months and $250 million, up 3.5% from 245 billion. So basically India imports $500 million worth of stuff from Bangladesh. Now that could be something that the country can do for the textile industry to save, right? So those duties are stuffing. Shortfall is visible now. While the policy change has led to delay of 2-3 weeks. So what they've done is they've basically used a couple of ports, and only through those ports the proper material will happen. I'll tell you, ready-made garments from the neighbor country are now only allowed through seaports of Kolkata and Nhava Sheva in Mumbai. Now this particular thing has essentially created some supply chain bottleneck for the retailers, right? So they're not being able to refresh their inventory as fast as they'd like. Now I think they should even go higher on that particular bit, right? The government. not just two ports, some import duties and so on and so forth. That would actually help the, because how much were the textile players exporting to US and others, like $10 billion, right? Exports, textile exports were some $10 billion, and US took about 2.5 to $3 billion of it, right? Maybe more. So that's a lot of money. And textile basically is the bottom of the pyramid hiring play. They hire a lot of people, low income group. And if textile basically starts firing people, it's going to be a bit of a problem. So the government really needs to make a lot of moves as far as preserving that is considered. Maybe it was one of them. Government looks to connect airport charges with customer service. Okay. Airtel's Jio's AGR ticks up. Vodafone stays flat. Well, that's no surprise. Airtel's and Jio's AGR is basically going up 2.6 to 2.7%, right? 2.6 to 2.7%. Vodafone not so much. AGR is of course adjusted gross revenue. Speaking of adjusted gross revenue of Airtel and Jio, Jio is basically looking at a tariff hike to boost its ARPU. If that succeeds, its Dalal Street listing could be valued even more. So its valuation may get a boost from like 133 billion to even higher. We discussed this. Jio was essentially looking something in the ballpark of $150 billion. That's basically how much Starbucks was worth a few years ago. Must be worth more. McDonald's is worth $250 billion, and Jio will be worth like $150 billion. Jio has like 500 million subscribers. It's the second largest telecom operator by number of subscribers after a Chinese company. So that particular bit is very interesting. How these people might just be looking at ARPU boost. Vodafone Idea, by the way, in a way, is essentially what? Is just on the mercy of Jio and Airtel. Why? Because if these people raise their prices, only then Vodafone can raise its prices, right? That's the problem. So it can only be like a step behind these people. If these people raise prices, Vodafone will wait a little so that it can get some subscribers from these people. Because as they raise prices, some subscribers will fall off, right? And where they will fall? On Vodafone. Now, after it's gained some subscribers or hope to gain some subscribers, that's when it can raise some prices. So Vodafone Idea is just screwed. Moving on. Some news on AI, right? Gen AI, a shrink for Gen Z. Youngsters are turning to AI tools for emotional support. State of Illinois has banned AI-based therapy, right? But AI is proving to be, a good companion for these young kids. Of course, that makes sense. But Reid Hoffman has an interesting thing to say. I don't think any AI tool today is capable of being a friend. And I think if it's pretending to be a friend, you're actually harming the person in doing so. Friendship is a two-directional relationship. It's not only, are you there for me, but I'm here for you. Well, I agree with Reid Hoffman on this particular bit. He's definitely right. I think all the tools that are essentially pitching AI as a companion or AI as a friend, they're harming people more than they're helping them. Because if you're talking to AI and if you're being able to talk to it and make it your girlfriend, a lot of people are making AI tools their girlfriends and so on and so forth. Your ability to talk with actual people will just go downhill, right? Because AI is it's pretty sycophantic in nature. It's a pretty good yes ma'am, yes sir kind of a play. And if that's what you start liking, you won't be able to sustain conversations with people, right? So that is basically what's happening. AI companion apps boom. AI girlfriend, virtual husband, digital friend, holographic companion, so on and so forth, right? My friend's company, Era, Rumik.ai and Era is in the same space, right? A lot of people declared Era their girlfriend and they raised a lot of money. They raised like some 1 million from Info Edge, Sanjeev Bichandani sir, and then they raised 4 million from Elevation Capital, along with 1 million from Sanjeev Bichandani sir. So overall, they've raised over $6.5 million. Era. Now that's booming. 90% of romantic chat apps may share or sell personal data. Well, that's no surprise. What's the name of the company again? It's called Rumik.ai. It's Era, the product. Now I can talk about it. He told me in confidence before the round was announced and it was completed. But now it's public news, so we can talk about it. Moving on. A lot of stuff happening as far as AI is considered. Alibaba's AI revenue rockets, triggers $50 billion stock value. Tesla sales fall in some Europe markets extend to 8th month. Now Tesla's sale in Europe falling for the 8th month straight. Right? Data from France Monday showed registration from Tesla fell 47% in August versus the same month in 2024, while the overall car market grew nearly 2.2%. So half of what it sold last year in the same month, that's what happened. Fell more than 84% in Sweden, where electric sales were flat, and dropped 42% in Denmark. Huge numbers. Tesla registrations were down in Netherlands by 50%. Norway, Spain rose, but growth was well below that of China's top maker BYD. So, BYD as basically is demolishing Tesla in Europe, man, and across the world actually, even in China. But Tesla, what it's hoping for is the robo taxi, which comes out next year, and the humanoid robot Optimus, right? That's the sell. And now we can talk about what's happening as far as the geopolitical play is considered. India and China and Russia have warmed up, and Mr. Trump has said India basically, offered to reduce tariffs to zero, but it's getting late. It's getting late. Now, people who don't know Trump or who haven't read about Trump enough would seem like this is just a rattled noise coming from him. But I've read Art of the Deal, and this is his call that, hey, I'm back on the table. We can talk. This is his way of saying, we can talk. We can talk. It's getting late means it's not done yet. So we can talk. So basically, Trump and, everybody in US has realized what a big mistake it was to essentially get India into the Russian war play. And Peter Navarro basically said that, Brahmins are making money because of the oil that India is refining. The Russian oil is refining, right? Brahmins are making money. And everybody's like, hey, why are you talking about Indian caste lines, man? What's with you? And then Indian, the opposition people from Indian political spectrum, they started defending him. They said, Boston Brahmins. He was talking about Boston Brahmins. Now, Boston Brahmins is like an 1860 term used for elites, right? And they said, hey, he was referring to Boston Brahmins. And we were like, really? Really? Is that true? So that particular bit basically talked about how, the whole thing was, right? Are these people talking about Indian caste fault lines now? They're talking about Boston Brahmins making money through through the Russian refining oil. Is this what you're gonna say? Right? It's gonna be it's funny, right? So Trump is basically talking back, and this could be a sign. This could be a very big sign. And if this particular thing gets okay, it's just gonna be very, very amazing for India, because India has a better relationship with China now, right? And then it's gonna be having a favorable tariff situation as well. That's gonna be a win-win from everywhere. So Trump is back on the table. Nobody told you. Just remember who told you first, right? I said Trump is back on the table. You didn't hear from any place else. But what Trump said, that hey, India offered to lower tariffs to zero, but it's getting late now. Nobody read it as, oh, it's an offer, but it is an offer. So if something happens, just know who told you first. Miss Sanchari Ghosh says, "Whoa, I made it while you're live. Hey Nishant, congrats on the episode 100." So that's so sweet of you. You watch the repeat telecast, right? So nice of you. Yeah, 100th episode. With this, we come to the end of the 100th episode of Thinkers Frequency, guys. 100 episodes. That's huge. Mr. Tiwari says, make a viral post on this now. Yeah. You know what? When I write, I get lakhs of views. When I go live, I get basically 15. And then the views overall, some 100, 200 views. But still, I feel, going live, I find it better than writing articles now. It's boring. Now, if I keep writing articles, I'll grow my following. It helps my popularity, right? Because each article I write, it just goes viral, and then you have like so many views, lakhs and lakhs of views. But somehow it feels boring, right? After all, life is all about juggling what you want to do and what the world wants. It's never what the world wants. You know what the world wants. You can give what the world wants. It's like what you want to give to the world. So that's the middle ground. Anyway, so I'll think about it, Mr. Tiwari. Thank you for the nudge. This brings us to the end of the 100th episode, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis, which don't lead to paralysis. Right before we punch in, it's 9:18. We're punching in. We're late already. Sorry to keep you waiting, but I hope you have a beautiful day, personally and professionally. I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place, same time. Hopefully, have a nice day. Bye. Oh shit, we missed the AI question by Mr. Rohit D'Souza. We'll discuss it tomorrow. Sorry, Mr. Rohit.